The industry has been hit quite hard. I think, we should all be honest with ourselves. It's not been a great couple of years.
For sure.
I think you need to be even more disciplined and even more ruthless in how you spend the money and how you associate your brand with what you want the brand to be in 5-10 years time. And it's a very difficult thing, right? Because your short-term stakeholders, your investors, your shareholders, they obviously want to see revenue. They want to see profit margin increase, which you can optimize for that in the short term, but it will definitely hit you in the long term. Mm-hmm. So I think it's critical for leadership and for those in decision-making positions to actually push back against the short-term thinking in the interest of long-term brand value.
Welcome to Ride Success, the podcast that takes you on a learning journey to a productive, creative, and active life through the power of the bike. In the podcast, I explore cycling's global trends, community needs, innovative business strategies, and the journeys of remarkable individuals in the world of cycling. You are listening to a limited series of recordings during Rouleur Live 2024. This limited series has 11 episodes, and in each episode, the guests are asked 4 key questions. Each of my guests has different insights into where the opportunities for success in the cycling industry lie. So make sure you to subscribe and follow so you'll get notified of new podcasts because they will be released in quick succession. In this episode, I speak with Stefan van der Fluit, the CEO at Fluit. It discusses the importance of prioritizing product development over traditional marketing strategies to enhance brand visibility and engagement. Now, back to the show.
So hi, I'm Stefan van der Fluit, and I'm one of the co-founders here at Fluit.
Thanks, Stefan. I want to go straight into the questions. Where should companies, cycling companies that is, prioritize their spending to increase visibility and engagement?
It's a great question. Well, I can only speak from our experience and from like our vantage point. But really, to me, our thesis at Fluit has always been focus on the product. Like at the end of the day, it's the product that is the best form of marketing. You ask any marketeer, what's the most powerful form of marketing? It's word of mouth. Doesn't matter how many influencers you pay, how many products you give for free. At the end of the day, the thing that lasts the stand of time is really fundamentally good products. So I'd say any brand that wants to really increase the visibility, give more money to your product team.
Very good. Okay, so there is a move away from traditional media to new media, i.e. social media, podcasts, YouTube. And this has caused the content creator economy to become a thing, especially as well in the sports arena. How do you see the transformation of the sponsorship model from traditional media to new media? Do you see the brands adapting to these digital news reality? Do you still see that the companies are not quite adapting?
Yeah, so I think, it's one of those things that, love it or hate it. The content creator thing it's a thing. It's undeniable. I think there's some content creators and some influencers who definitely do a better job than the majority. It's the power law curve, right? Yeah. At the end of the day, it's like the top 10% are outperforming the average and kind of middle market 90%. I do think if you're a brand who's serious about basically evolving, you need to be part of that revolution. But I think you need to be very disciplined still in what works for you and what doesn't. And I think a lot of brands, especially in cycling, where the industry has been hit quite hard, I think, we should all be honest with ourselves. It's not been a great couple of years.
For sure.
I think you need to be even more disciplined and even more ruthless in how you spend the money and how you associate your brand with what you want the brand to be in 5-10 years time. And it's a very difficult thing, right? Because your short-term stakeholders, your investors, your shareholders, they obviously want to see revenue. They want to see profit margin increase, which you can optimize for that in the short term, but it will definitely hit you in the long term. So I think it's critical for leadership and for those in decision-making positions to actually push back against the short-term thinking in the interest of long-term brand value. And I think that there's some great ways to use the content creator space as a way to allow for that. And actually you can be quite capital efficient. Influencers is actually much more impactful than macro or typical influencers. So I think there's naturally creative ways to do it. But in general, I think you just need to be very disciplined for the long term. That's how we think about it at Fluit. And again, coming back to the first question, the best way to be disciplined for the long term is just create the best products, invest in the best R&D, and people will want to associate themselves to you and not the other way around.
Very good. You touched on it very briefly, but I wanted for you to dive in a bit more into what is for you the major tailwinds and headwinds that the cycling industry is about to face or has been facing.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're a hardware business, right? So like you have bits and pieces in your company. A lot of companies in our industry, in tech, they're purely ones and zeros. So cycling is a bits and pieces business. You can't ride a bike that's made out of ones and zeros, right? It's carbon fiber, it's aluminium, it's titanium. The clothing you wear is, cotton, polyester, right? So I think what we're seeing with just the geopolitical situation in Asia, I think that's quite alarming. And I think businesses need to be very realistic and honest with the fact that we might not be able to reliably count on Asia as a long-term trusted partner in the supply chain. But I think that's an opportunity really for us to bring manufacturing and creation and design back to our heritage, our roots, which is Europe. So I have a big philosophy that I would like to bring the manufacturing economy back to the United Kingdom. That's a big thing for me personally. I see manufacturing as a great way to upskill people into technology and into, the wider technical ecosystem. That's something we do here in London. Like everything, all of our S1s are designed and assembled in London. And that's something we definitely would like to ramp up. So I think brands probably should just be a bit more cautious about potentially not counting on what is typically the cheaper, higher profit margin economies, which potentially means, yes, we need to increase the retail price. But I think customers are willing to pay more for something which is created locally, sustainably, ethically. There's something to be said about something manufactured in your backyard where you can go see the factory, go visit the factory. I think there's something very magical about that. I mean, I'm Dutch, right? So like Heineken has in Amsterdam its factory still. You can go and visit the Heineken factory. It's an experience now. And I think that's a core part of brand. And I think brands can choose to either see it as a cost center or as a brand value generator.
Brand building exercise, yes.
Exactly.
So let's move on to a more personal side now. I wanted to you are an athlete, you are a founder. What is one thing that you do every day that enables you to perform at your best?
I bike.
All day, every day.
Honestly, yeah. Like for me, biking is not only, at the end of the day, I'm a performance athlete, right? So when I ride for a purpose, but I still keep it fun, or I try and keep it fun because yes, I want to win races. I want to push myself, but at the end of the day, it's cheaper than therapy. And it's probably more effective than therapy. So for me, it's how I keep myself grounded.
Okay.
And it's also like, it's the only time in the day where I'm completely undisturbed. And what I try now to do is like get up super early. So I was in Richmond Park at like 6 a.m. this morning. I was the only cyclist in Richmond Park and it was awesome. It's one of those moments where you just feel very blessed to be alive.
Yeah.
When it's just you and the deer and the sun is rising, you have planes landing into Heathrow and you're just like, life is good. So I think, and my coach says it to me all the time, like consistency is king, especially if you're a performance athlete. Even if you're not feeling great or if it's not like a day where you think you can push yourself, just still go out, stay under 125 beats per minute. You're still doing something for your physiology, but also for your mental health. And so to me, I've learned the hard way, like I need to keep cycling. It makes me a better person. Yes, it takes time, but it gives me time back in other areas.
Very good.
So yeah.
Cool. That's impressive. Thank you for sharing that. So I want to come to the end of our quick interview. There's a tradition that I started in the podcast where every guest leaves a question to my next guest. So I wanted to ask you the question that was left for you. Have you ever lied to a partner or a family about the cost of a bike?
Yes. I think I'll even go further. I don't think I've ever been honest to a partner or a family member about the cost of my bikes. I mean, now I have a sponsor. So like, luckily now I don't have to lie about it, but no, I don't think I've ever been honest about the cost of my bikes. I don't think you should be. I think there's some things in life that like, money is not something which should be brought to the table and like be discussed about. Like some questions shouldn't be asked, but it's one of those things. And again, I say it's cheaper than therapy, right? Like a 10 grand bike. Well, if you're paying a therapist, maybe £250 an hour, right? How many hours are you on the bike? How many hours of that are therapy?
Yeah,
I guess a lot longer.
With that thinking, it balances out. It's an investment in yourself.
It's how I just rationalize it to myself. Yeah. I mean, whether it's right or wrong, it's how I rationalize it. But Brilliant. Yeah, no, great question.
Brilliant. So
comes to you now. Would you like to leave a question to my next guest?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say like a question that I think, and I ask myself this all the time too, is like, are we better off or worse off with the more data that we have? So okay. that's my hypothetical question.
Brilliant. Thanks, Stefan, for your time.
Thank you, Pedro.
Thank you for listening to this quick interview. I'm your host, Pedro Couto Lopez. You can find me under my own name on LinkedIn. You can find Ride to Success on all socials. And let me know if you like this format of shorter, snappier interviews with guests within the cycling industry. And if you like the show, please give us a review, follow, helps us to create better content and bring more guests to the podcast. Make sure you tune into the next episode, which will be released shortly. Thank you for listening.